Hey y'all, Mr. Lapeze here with some tips and reminders regarding using source material for essay number 3, and then just some general reminders about essay number 3, which is coming up in just a couple of weeks, the final draft due date. So first thing I wanted to talk to y'all about is something that we were working on, but I think we can get better at as a class, is integrating source materials, quotations essentially, into our paragraphs in essays for support for our thesis. And essay number 3 has a research component. So what I have here are some examples, 4 different examples, number 1, 2, 3, and 4, of basically every type of quotation integration example you might come across when you're trying to get a quotation from your research materials or class readings into your paper for essay number 3. And you can just come back to this and use this as a reference when you're integrating your own quotations for your essay. So the first example, number 1 here, is when you have a paginated source, which means the original source has page numbers, and you give the author and usually the title in your signal phrase. So this is the example, and here's the signal phrase here, which signals to your reader the source from which the quotation is coming from. And it says, in, and then title of the essay in quotation marks, a tax system stacked against the 99%, and then you have the author's name, Joseph E. Stiglitz writes. So here's your signal phrase, which tells your reader, your audience, the title of the essay and the author who wrote the essay from which you're borrowing material. And then you have your quotation and quotation marks. Research in recent years has linked the tax rates, sluggish growth, and rising inequality. And then you have your citation at the end. So if you have a paginated source and your author is in the signal phrase, for here we have Joseph E. Stiglitz writes, all you do for your citation at the end is put the page number from which the quotation derives in parentheses, and the period will come after the quotation. So if you have a paginated source, and this will be so any of our class readings that come from our Wake Tech English 111 reader, there's a paginated source, the book has page numbers. This is the example you use if you give the author and essay title in the signal phrase. You'll say something, here's the title, here's the author's name, writes, you'll give your quotation, and then you'll have a page number inside the citation at the end. If you have a source with page numbers and you do not give the author in the signal phrase, this is an example of when you may have said the author's name multiple times and you're saying, okay, I want to quote from this source, but if I mention the author's name again, it's going to sound like too much. Too many times have I said, for example, Robert Reich, over and over and over again. So I'm going to leave the author's name out. And I'm just going to have something like this. The author writes. So a signal phrase without the author's name, comma to separate the signal phrase from the quotation, and then your quotation. Research in recent years has linked the tax rates, sluggish growth, and rising inequality. Close quotation marks. There's a space, always a space between your quotation marks and your citation. And because the author's name is not given in the signal phrase, your parentheses is around the author's last name, a space, and then the page number from the original source from which the quotation derives. You'll close your citation and put a period at the end. So again, this is from a paginated source, original source material that has page numbers, and the author is not in the signal phrase. We just have the author writes, no name. So these two, number 1 and number 2, will cover, again, all of your readings from your Wake Tech English 111 reader, because that's a paginated source. There's page numbers to your reader. If the author is in the signal phrase, in the sentence, you only put the page number in your parenthetical citation. If the author is not in the signal phrase, you have to put the last name and the page number with a space between them inside the parenthetical citation with a period at the end. And then essay number 3 has a research component. Remember, we're going to have 6 total source materials for every essay. Everybody in our class is going to list 6 entries on their works cited page. 3 will come from our class readings, 3 will come from your own research. So lots of research materials, especially if they're from the web, they're non-paginated, which means there's no page numbers. Lots of times when you go to a website and you find reliable material that you want to use to support your thesis, you don't scroll down the page and you see page numbers. So these two deal with those types of sources, non-paginated sources. And what you have here is a non-paginated source where you give the author in the sentence, inside a signal phrase. However, Paul Krugman, in his essay titled The Very Strong Case for Bidenomics, argues, here's your signal phrase. It signals to your reader the author and the title. So Paul Krugman, in his essay titled The Very Strong Case for Bidenomics, argues, and because your author and your title are in the sentence, notice there is no citation at the end, because everything you could have given, the author, the title, etc., is listed in the sentence. This is a non-paginated source, no page numbers, so there is no citation. You close your quotation mark and you put the period inside the quotation mark. If you have a non-paginated source, again, a source material like a web source with no page numbers, and the author is not provided in the signal phrase, the author's name does not appear in your sentence, then you give the author in a citation at the end. So this person wrote, however, even before the coronavirus, good employment numbers could hide underlying economic weakness. However, quotation from the original in quotation marks, you have a comma here to separate the quotation from the signal phrase, argues the author. The comma is inside the quotation marks, and because it says the author, not the name in the sentence, you have to give the author's name in the parenthetical citation. There's no page numbers, so there's no page number to put in here, unlike this example where the page number is given with the author's name because this is a paginated source. This is a non-paginated source, no page number, so you give the author's name in the citation, period at the end. Again, I don't expect you to memorize this. I'm not going to give you a quiz on it, but what the things to keep in mind are, whenever you borrow material, whenever you quote, paraphrase, or summarize, there needs to be a citation. There needs to be something in your sentence that says, this is not mine. If you're borrowing direct language from a source, you put the source material inside quotation marks, and everything in quotation marks is obviously to your reader, not yours. It's not the author of the paper, it's the author of this original source. If your source has page numbers, then the page number will be included in the citation. If your source has page numbers and your author is not provided, the author name is not provided in the sentence, then you include the author name with the page number in the citation. If, like number 3 and number 4, you have a source material that is not paginated, there's no page numbers, then you have to give the author's name either in the sentence, in a signal phrase, or inside the citation. Your reader needs to know where the material comes from, bottom line. You can never paraphrase, summarize, or quote and not have the author's name either in the sentence or in a citation at the end of the sentence. That's how you avoid plagiarism. And then some basic reminders about essay number 3. As I just mentioned, everybody's essay should have 6 total sources, 6 places from which you borrow material. No more or less. 3, you're choosing from our class readings. We read Robert Reich, David Brooks, 2 essays by Paul Krugman, and Barbara Ehrenreich's Nickel and Dimed. So you're going to choose 3 of our class readings and pair them with 3 of your own research materials. So 3 class readings, 3 of your own research materials, 6 materials total from which you borrow. Make sure, this is just a general reminder, hopefully everybody does this, make sure your essay addresses 2 things. What is success for your chosen constituency? Remember, you're choosing a single chosen constituency and defining success for that constituency. You might choose any of the examples provided on the prompt, veterans, the elderly, LGBTQ people, etc. So you choose a single constituency, you define success for that constituency, and then you explain the role of government in helping that constituency achieve success, their version of success. Length requirement, most people are reaching the full length requirement, but if you don't, remember, this is the time to do it if you haven't done it yet. You lose a letter grade automatically if you don't reach the full length requirement. This essay has to be 5 full pages, meaning down to the very bottom of page 5, spilling onto page 6, just to be careful. You don't want to lose a letter grade on the most important grade-wise essay of the semester. This essay is worth 25%, so a quarter of the entire course. Reach the full length requirement. Okay, push yourself. This is the time to do it. And last thing, what we just talked about, you need to avoid plagiarism. You don't want to get a 0 on the last essay of the semester after the withdrawal date, before the final exam, and fail the class. So make sure if you borrow material, summary, paraphrase, quotation, you document it. You have citations to mark the borrowed material in your paragraphs. And then you have works cited entries. You have an entry for each source from which you borrow material. That's the way to avoid plagiarism, to avoid getting a 0 on the final paper. And then just remember, y'all, this is the time to get your A, B, or C. There's nothing major after essay number 3. We have a final exam that's worth 15%. So, I mean, just a little bit more than half of this essay. This one's worth 25%. This is the time to pull that D up to a C, to pull that B up to an A, to get the grade you want in the course. A final exam, 15%. If you take it and you try hard, you're probably not going to change your grade much, up or down. Only those borderline between A's and B's, B's and C's, etc., are going to shift their grade up or down with a final exam worth 15%. This essay number 3, is the time to get the grade you want. So work hard. Remember, I'm here to help. Shoot me an email, ask me questions. I can help. Obviously, I can't edit your paper, but I'm here to answer questions. And if you've been avoiding getting help from the ILC and the Real Center for whatever reason, you haven't been able to, you're scared to get help, etc., this is the time to do it. Get as much help as possible from myself, ILC, Real Center. Get the grade you need to pass the class or to be happy. Good luck, y'all. This is it. With a few weeks before the final major essay of the semester is due. If I can help one last time, let me know. Go get it, y'all.